We're live.
Everyone, welcome to Flavor Talk with the Barbecue Pro Shop Factory team. I'm your co-host, Brian Neal, aka Mr. Freak of Smoke Freaks Barbecue.
And I'm Ann Neal, Ms. Freak, and together we're the tongues and testers of the flavor guide at Barbecue Pro Shop, the world's first seasonings decoder and buying guide. Joining us is our partner in flavor going all the way back to 2019, Jeff Belmonte, owner of Barbecue Pro Shop. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hi, everybody. So excited to be here tonight.
What's happening, Jeff?
Not much. Good to be here.
Cool. We are excited for tonight's Flavor Talk, where we are welcoming Rick Manzi of AnonymousQ BBQ. Rick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm certainly excited to be here.
So everyone tuning in, Rick is the mastermind behind Disruption Rubs, which goes by the tagline of the flavor they won't see coming. That's available here at Barbecue Pro Shop and now also on the shelves all the way across the pond in Europe. Congratulations, Rick, on that, and welcome to Flavor Talk.
Glad to be
So
here.
thanks to everyone that's joining in today, and let's see who we got on the live. Anybody joining us yet?
We got a lot of people. We've got no comments yet. So, hey, drop us a comment. We'll flash your comment on the screen, give you a hello. Here we are.
There we go. And everyone who's tuning in tonight, be sure and jump in with questions as we go. Ann and Jeff and I don't want to dominate the man here ourselves, so be sure and pop in with your questions as we go. We'll put them up on the screen and make sure to get them answered. So let's go ahead and jump on into tonight's Flavor Talk. We'll start by getting to know Rick and his barbecue story, and then we'll get into the meat of our discussion, so to speak, which is going to be all about the flavors of the Disruption line of seasonings at AnonymousQ. So Rick, why don't we kick this off by telling people a little bit about you and your barbecue origin story.
Right.
So what were you doing before you became a barbecue guy, and how did you find your way into this big, crazy barbecue family?
Yeah, certainly, Brian. Well, I'm still doing the same thing. So some people think because I came up with Disruption Rubs, I compete. It's my job. I actually, I'm the vice president of one of the largest grocery retailers on the East Coast. That is my day job. So I do have a day job. I'm not retired yet. But really, the whole reason we got into barbecue and an SCA was really to establish work-life balance, because all work and no play certainly isn't good. So, with that being said, my wife in 2016 for Father's Day bought me a big green egg. I was excited as heck. And I cooked food on it. And she says, hon, she looked at me at the dinner table and said, I have to tell you, it's the worst food I ever ate in my life. Is this going to continue to be this way? So lo and behold, I took a class in 2017. And from that, my barbecue certainly got better. The whole smoking meat and really intrigued me. And I said, you know what, I want to do this competitively. So locally, we had a team who was actually on Pitmasters Season 2 and Team of the Year in 2012. I called them up and I said, hey, I'd be willing to wash dishes for you. I just want to be part of a team in barbecue. So I did that for nearly 2 years. And obviously, he went through some stuff, and, the team kind of broke up. And, I looked at my wife, Sue, and everybody who knows Sue, she always has a smile on her face. And I said, hey, babe, I like this barbecue thing. You want to do it? And in typical Sue fashion, she says, absolutely, I support you. So I was in a food trade show in Orlando, and while I was walking down the runway in Orlando, I bought a J3 Jambo, and I said, hey, let's do this thing. We picked up rented a U-Haul, and we started our journey, which was great in 2019. And then certainly 2020, COVID hit. And obviously with the hit of COVID, KCBS comps were canceled, and SCA was still going at a limited capacity. So we tried it, and we liked it. Outdoor, you're meeting people. It's fun. The competitive side of it is certainly nice. And of course, most of us in the SCA, once you get that golden ticket, actually, once you get your first top 10 call, it's like they hook you. It's like catching fish. So we only did, I think it was maybe 5 or 6 comps. We happened to get our golden ticket. And from that, we were doing both barbecue and SCA. Unfortunately, and I was saying this to Brian and Ann earlier, is that I don't have a lot of time with work. So SCA really took more hold. We did compete in barbecue for, a couple of years. Always, being blessed enough to, get those 2 or 3 top 10 calls, finish 4th. And of course, you always want bragging rights when you go up against the big teams and the well-known teams. And, that's your trophy, even if you didn't get the grand champion. So that was really the journey with that. In 2023,
So for those who don't know, SCA is the Steak Cook-Off Association. And in that particular format, there's a lot less running around and chasing meat and chasing kale. It's kind of a one-day event most of the time, right?
Yes. So a lot less prep versus a KCBS comp where it's the week before. You throw your meats, you shopping, your knives, you get your spices ready, your injections, you trim your chicken.
The Wednesday shuffle, we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
steak cooking's pretty great. I only need 1 knife for that. I don't need to bring 6 or 7 of them.
I don't scrape chicken, just for the record. I never will, and it'll still come out okay. But anyways, in 2023, the whole thing with the SCA and really barbecue really intrigued me with flavors. There's many good rubs out there. I probably used every one on Jeff's shelf, but certainly I was just intrigued to always how do you make it better, particularly when I was in SCA. How do I enhance the flavor of this? How do I enhance the flavor of the protein, not change it? So in 2023, I started playing around with now Disruption Rubs on a competitive scene, and I became really consistent. Flavor scores were consistent. So I looked at my wife and I said, something, I love food. I love cooking. It's the work-life balance that really gives me a zen, so to speak, and really feel well. I said, you know what? I think we have something here. So we continued to develop them, and we finally came out with them. And ironically, I launched them in 2024 at the World Championship, and I was scared crap. I'm like, because you don't know, right? Because you think about it, I'm this little person from the Mid-Atlantic. Although I had success, I didn't really know how this would go. Lo and behold,
when you say launched them, you mean launched them for sale or launched them out on the competition?
Launched them for sale, Brian. And the ironic thing was, the Lord must have been with me, because I was fortunate enough to finish 4th in the world, half a point off a world champ, in addition to 2nd in the Cowtown Classic, which we know since changed. So I said, my God. So from that, it really, obviously, my trailer was like the registry of motor vehicles once I had those first 2 calls at the World Championship. And it really helped me out and launch that. With that being said, I thought it was really important to create team disruption, because anytime you want to create a brand, it's tough to be a small fish in a big pond, particularly with a lot of the winners out there, the Heath Riles and Malcolm Reed, Blue Hogs. So really, in order to get brand awareness, my wife and I decided to obviously invest in the team, which we love each and every one of them. When you think about it, we have about 60 to 65 teammates from Alaska to the East Coast and in Europe. To create the brand awareness, we have a couple of points champions in Hungary with Nora and Andres. So it's really been great. We can't thank the team enough for their effort and their support of Disruption Rubs. Each and every one of them, they contribute. And the beautiful thing about it, they hit all over the country and in Europe, which we've been really blessed by doing that. So here we are today.
How's that whole work-life balance thing working out now that you've taken your hobby and turned it into another job?
Yeah, well, my wife was retired 4 years ago, she thought. So she's back working on a temporary basis with Disruption Rubs. But no, I'm in retail, and retail, particularly in this day and age, is very challenged with the economy and the economic times. So again, I would love to do more barbecue comps. I declined the barbecue battle last year in DC, even though I do it every year. I just don't have the time, as you referenced with the Steak Cook-Off Association. You could set up in a half hour, compete in 6-7 hours, break down, and I could be sleeping in my bed at night. So it's a lot less time consuming, so to speak.
And I got to say, Rick, it's been really wonderful to get to know you a little bit more over these last couple of weeks, as we've been preparing for this flavor talk. I know we had seen each other at comps, here or there, certainly at Worlds, but truly our first introduction really to you and to your amazing line of seasonings. You talk about your brand ambassadors, our buddy Dale Benson, who is just a great human being, a good friend, an amazing cook, member of the High Stakes Grilling team. Little shout out to those guys. Yes. And he really, really told us, we need to really know more about your flavors. And so,
I hadn't heard of it at the time when he introduced us to it.
But Dale was a fantastic brand ambassador and persistent. Like you guys, like there's something here. Like you got to be in on this. You guys.
How'd you go about finding the folks that are part of your broader team?
It's really twofold. Obviously it's not all superstars. Initially thought was, you know what? I just want people who believe in our products that have coverage across the country. Really, that's it. They didn't have to be in the top 10, top 25. At the end of the day, when I look at competitions, particularly SCA, it's about having fun. So we just wanted a bunch of great people, which we have, who want to represent our products, which we have. And again, we couldn't be more proud and thankful for each and every one of them and their commitments in, using disruption rubs and promoting our brand. We've been really blessed. So it's really more a strategic thing to for brand awareness, but we've been blessed.
So
well, let's talk about Go ahead, Ann. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say I'm a bit of a brand geek, a little bit of a brand freak. So I got to know what's up with the name AnonymousQ. Where did that come from? And what does that mean to you now?
Yeah. The name AnonymousQ, again, competing with someone who was on Pitmaster Season 2 in Team of the Year in 2012. I didn't want to be someone that, oh yeah, he used to cook with so-and-so. I wanted to be my own identity. So I said, I said to my wife, I said, you know what? We were thinking about names, Sue and I, and Sue's really good with this. And she said, well, she's like, what if we go anonymous? I go, oh my God, AnonymousQ. They won't know who I am, but I'm walking the stage, then they'll know who I am. I want to have my own identity. And when you think about the name Anonymous, what it means to me now, obviously it's a brand. And when I came up with Disruption Rubs, if you look at Disruption Rubs synonyms, whether it was steak or the SCA, I would always manage to do fairly well. So I said, you know what? It's a synonym of anonymous disruption. So when I came up with rubs, it's really the name itself, AnonymousQ, Disruption Rubs. And it's that whole, even sometimes when I post on social media, people like, Rick's probably not that creative. It has that darker, mysterious tone to it when I post something.
Sure.
So it's really about the brand, quite honestly. We just been fortunate enough that the rubs themselves have been fairly successful.
Yeah. Mr. Freak, I took your question, perhaps.
Well, it's a better question for you as the marketing babe on this team. So,
But in addition to that, I must say, and hopefully the team agrees, if you look at the swag that we give to the teams, whether it's the beanies, whether it's the caps, whether it's the jerseys, it's about the brand, right? It's about the brand. And when people say Disruption Rubs or AnonymousQ, I want them to go hand in hand. And I want people to say, you know what? Great people, great team, great products. It's good to go. I can feel proud about that. So truthfully, what AnonymousQ means to Sue and I, or even Disruption Rubs, is the fact that, again, we have great people representing a great product, and we're extremely proud of that.
Well, let's jump in and talk a little bit about flavor, or a whole lot about flavor, actually, because you've got a whole lot of flavors in the lineup already, even though you've only been at this for just a little over a year, 18 months or so, it sounds like, since they hit the shelves. So when you set out to start building this product line, what were you shooting for? Were you trying to solve for a gap that was out there, or just put your own stamp on things, or what was it all about for you?
Well, for me, I think having the retail knowledge that I have, there's two sides of looking at this. If I was going into this not knowing the retail knowledge that I have, I'd probably come up with one rub at a time, and I would build my brand. And that's what most people do, and there's nothing wrong with it. Being in retail for 40 years and dealing with a lot of even the names that Jeff has on his shelf, to me, I wanted to build a whole program. And the initial program was around steak and the SCA Steak Cook-Off Association. So I said to myself, it has to start with a great SPG and onion type rub. That's good, an all-purpose rub. That's a fundamental foundation. When it came to spicy, the difference in my spicy rub, people say, Rick, you got your AP rub, and all you did was add heat to it. No, I didn't. If you look at our spicy rub, It actually has more umami, wishaya powder, and more umami notes with a kick of heat. So that serves a different purpose. When it came to my all-time favorite, beef and more, a lot of rubs today, and they're all great rubs. They're made with a lot of beef bases. I could taste beef base. I have a pretty good palate. For me, every rub we come out with comes out with a purpose. I said to myself, how could I capture enhancing the flavor of the beef and adding a little bit something to it versus changing the flavor of beef or changing the flavor of a protein? And if you look at what's in beef and more, it's actually a yeast extract versus a beef base. And I don't know if people know, but yeast extracts, when people taste the 4 blends that I have with yeast extracts, they're like, Rick, they're really powerful. That's what yeast extracts do. They enhance the overall flavor of all the spices in the rub. You can't go too far because you got to push it to where it's salty enough, but not too salty to offend. But really, beef and more was designed really is a fundamental steak rub. And then certainly grilling dust. Grilling dust has its own unique purpose. I do use it on a steak. I'll tell everybody the 6 rubs I use later, and you can buy them at Barbecue Pro Shop. I do want to tell that later. But grilling dust I use is a layer in a finisher, so is part of a finisher. So for me, that was those 4 rubs really were built around the SCA and giving someone a total program that if they wanted to get in the game, these are the 4 rubs you could purchase and make a go at it.
Well, I think I need to know a little bit more about this yeast extract, how it works, because this is absolutely brand new to me. I've never really thought of that as an ingredient or even knew that that was something that would go in a barbecue rub. So first of all, how do you know about that?
Well,
I mean, do you have like a food science background or something?
I think I should have, but I can't sleep at night. You could ask my wife, Sue. Like I sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. That's all I need. And when you do a lot of research with yeast extracts, and you could get them for any flavor profile. A couple of things. The reason why I use them, I'm going to be upfront. Number one is they are more expensive. So versus a traditional base, whether it's chicken based, beef based, they are a lot more expensive. That's the first reason. First and foremost, they enhance the overall flavor of your rub and the way it meshes and gives it that more in-depth umami, ties everything together. The third reason, if someone tries to copy my rubs, it's really tough to break down yeast extracts when you analyze them. So if someone wants to take disruptor rubs to a food scientist, good luck. It's going to be tough and challenging.
So are there just various kinds of beef extracts and they all taste different, or what? They
do. There's all, if you notice beef and more, and you guys nailed it both on both of them, is you almost get a little au jus flavor from it. And that was done by design. So the intent is to enhance the flavor of beef and get something a little bit different that isn't offensive or leaves a different funny taste in your mouth. So,
yeah. And Rick, there are seasonings that do just what you said, leave a funny taste in your mouth. And that's not necessarily a pleasing taste in your mouth. And, we sample so many flavors, as it relates to the flavor guide. And there's something nice about, the idea of complementing a protein or complementing a dish rather than a seasoning taking over a dish. And it's only about the seasoning. And I think you've done a nice job for the flavors that we've gotten into with the flavor guide and just, playing around at home. That Epic AP, I know we're going to get into the rub specifically, but wow. Epic. So let's talk about, how do you test your blends? I know you have your big team of brand ambassadors. You've got a plan. Tell us about how you do that.
Yeah, so testing. For everything I post on social media of food, there's at least 4 or 5 other proteins that were cooked on the grill, on the live fire grill. The team plays a big role. When you look at Meat Primer, I tested it at the Worlds in 2024. I went all in. It helped me out, obviously. That whole year, the only person to have that product was Team Disruption. I bought it in bulk, and we tested it. Feedback from the team, whether it's our private Facebook page or they'll call me, message me, they'll say, hey, Rick, I tried this combination. So it's really the feedback from the team, too. And even just, the cool thing about it is the messages I get every day, even people not on the team, just people who support us, we're very grateful, is just the things that they may say or the things they may have tried, or hey, Rick, did you know I tried, Epic AP as part of my grilling, my finisher? And I'll be like, no, I didn't even try that yet. I haven't even tried that yet. And they're telling me what they tried and they have success. So it's a lot like that. It's a lot of test and learn. I know we'll talk about it later, but test and learning and finalizing the product is really the most grueling thing in the world, truthfully.
Yeah. So where did you run into the biggest challenges from you've got your formula figured out and now you're trying to get it in a bottle on a shelf somewhere?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges you have when you're making a rub is I can make something in my kitchen. I could weigh it out. I could tell my co-packer, here's the grams of everything that's in there. But the one thing I learned is, first of all, I got this education from my co-packer. There's 3 tiers of seasonings, quality, just like beer, right? It's just, they use the top tier, which is great. With that being said, a lot of their jalapeno powder might be a lot hotter than my jalapeno powder, right? The chili color or even flavor could alter a little bit. So although they'll send a sample back, I'll show you later. Boom, everybody wants this. I'm on version 6 because I'm like, nope, it's not right. Nope, go back. It's not right. So that's what, there you go. That's the one everybody wants right there. 4 first place wins and 7 comps. That's my finish.
Yeah, I want that.
So, and 1 second place win. We've been fortunate, but all kidding aside, it just, that's probably the most challenging thing, Brian, is no matter what I measure out in grams and send to my co-pack, it comes back and I'll look at my wife. She'll look at me. She's like, we're not settling. She's my biggest critic. That's why I love her.
So where do you get the ingredients that you're using in the R&D process to kind of figure out what blends are even candidates?
There's a couple of online companies that I use for consistency, and depending what you want, sometimes they may not carry a certain either extract or they may not carry a certain blend because, again, if you're talking, grill flavors could be different, right? Like there could be a grilling flavor that Ian makes and a grilling flavor that Brian makes. They're 2 totally different ends of the spectrum. There could be, a citrus extract. There could just be a jalapeno. It's just so different. So I try to stay consistent with that. Just a couple. Every now and then you got to go somewhere different, which always concerns you because if they're not a big supplier, how is my co-packer going to match that up to that particular spice?
So we've heard different versions of that story from a lot of the makers out there, and it just seems odd to me that the co-packers don't offer a program that makes it easy to get your hands on the seasonings they use, so you can skip all that, figure it out using the building blocks they already have, and then it seems like it'd go a lot easier. But as far as I know, nobody's really doing that.
No.
Well, that is pretty interesting that so many folks seem to have that same challenge of, getting to the right final product. Yeah. So how do you know when you're done? Are you comparing it side by side, what they send you with your prototype, or how do you do that?
So you take Boom, right? We're on, actually I asked for version 7 last Friday. They love me. What we usually do, Brian, like you take Boom, because we want, this thing's going to be this is pretty radical.
Well, yeah, it's got lions and tigers and bears in it.
Yeah, no, and everything.
I'm reading the ingredient list here on screen. Sounds pretty exotic, man.
Yeah. So what we usually do is, as we make tweaks, Sue and myself, one thing I do a lot of, and I don't show on social media, I probably cook 3 to 4 test steaks a week. That's the God's honest truth. People may say, well, Rick, you're pretty consistent. First of all, never settle, because as soon as you settle, it's over. Someone else is going to beat you. But as it pertains to rubs, what we do is, we may be on version 7 of Boom. We'll go back to version 3. We'll cut them side by side to say, okay, take this one out. We don't like that. It's got too much heat. We'll go to version 4 and say, hey, you know what? Not enough salt, particularly if you're going to use it as a finisher or a light layer. Get rid of this one. And then we'll narrow it down to like the 2 or 3. And that's what, I know, especially a lot of team members, Rick, I want Boom, like everybody else. I'm like, it's got to be perfect. Like Disruption name's going to be on it. I go back to brand, right? Yeah. The name's going to be on it. It's got to be right.
Kudos to you. It's an effort, to get it to the place where it meets your standards and what you're trying, to accomplish. So when you're working on one of those flavors, like take Boom, like when you get there, like how do you know How do you know when you get there?
Usually, here's exactly how it happens. God's honest truth. Sunday, we cooked 3 steaks. And my wife, because we got to comp this Friday, and my wife, I'll look at her. I don't say a word to her. I finish off my steak. She'll taste it, and she'll give me this. First place. And when she says first place 3 or 4 times, and it's been happening, I know I'm on to something. We are pretty close, all kidding aside. But she's my biggest critic, to be honest with you. And then certainly we test it at competitions, which is a risk, right? When you develop rubs, it's a risk when you test them. But she pretty much gives me the go ahead. She's my taste tester and my conscience.
So the rollout for the line happened obviously at Worlds last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to talk a little bit just about the go-to-market strategy that you had in mind beyond that. I mean, you can only sell so many things to the guys in the SCA.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to build a business on top of that.
Yep.
And then I'd like to ask Jeff a little bit about how he makes the decisions of what to carry.
Yep.
So yeah, let's start with you, Rick. And what were you imagining of how you would get this thing out to the broader masses, and how has it gone compared to the original plan?
Couple things. Again, I go back to I developed them with purpose. So for me, the first 4 was to get everybody in the game who competed SCA. I knew I'd have to come out with 4 others to compete in barbecue. So when you look at the barbecue rub, Epic AP for more your bigger meats, your brisket, your ribs, your pork butts, your brisket and more. Prime is like the best kept secret in the world. But I knew I had to get into that game. So I knew fundamentally for me to cater to both, because right now there's a lot of people locally, particularly in barbecue, and whether it's SCA ancillary or true barbecue. I mean, we have a teammate, David Moore, just was a 705 using our rubs. And, that's a pretty good feeling. I know right now it's a small fish in a bigger pond for now. But the 2 together, they both serve different purposes. So you're catering to the SCA, you're catering to KCBS. And if you notice, Boom and Curiosity, I haven't even told you about Curiosity yet. They don't have the same label. And there's a reason why they don't have the same label. When you sell rubs, I don't care who you are, how big you are, 20 to 25% is going to drive 80% of your sales. And Jeff will tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
However, you may see rubs come in with disruption. You may see rubs go out. What we will ultimately have is the best of the best rubs that we could put forward and be more of the innovators of rubs. That's really our goal, to stay relevant is really the goal. You're always going to have your 20 to 25% that drive your business. 80% of your business. The other is just noise. And how do you hone that in? How do you be successful in more of that? And Jeff will tell you. He knows better than me.
Well, Jeff, let's throw it over to you.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was. I mean, I know that when you and I first start working, you rolled out those 4 rubs, and then immediately I brought those into the shop, and you're like, all right, I got 4 more. I was like, what? And so I think, that's sort of my question, is because like you said, it's like, it's not necessarily about shelf space, and obviously with e-commerce, but it is in a lot of the retail stores. And also it's a big thing too, is when I have customers that come into the store, it's a big sort of concern of mine of like, what's an Epic AP? Well, what's the all purpose? Well, what's the spicy, and that's where it gets really, technical, I think, for your average cooker, someone who's not in competition, which is really what my market is to bring these competition flavors to non-cooks. So explain to me a little bit more, like sort of comparing your all-purpose versus your Epic AP. Is that, as you were talking about it, is that sort of like an evolution of your all-purpose rub? Or?
Yeah. I think, like I said, when you look at the AP, that's a basic fundamental salt, pepper, garlic, onion rub, kosher salt, of course, in it. Mm-hmm. That you could use on everything that everybody could use. Then I came up with the spicy, more of umami with a bit of kick in the back. And when you look at Epic, I have to tell you, it is one of my favorite rubs. I could see down the road, Jeff, to your point, I could see a swap out potentially of saying, you know what, do I sunset my all purpose and just have an Epic all purpose? So, but that's the part of the innovation. And that's honestly what I want to be known for. I may not be the biggest person, but I want people to look at Disruption Rubs as a brand, a relevant brand who stays relevant.
Yeah.
But I have no problem at any point in time and shape sunsetting a rub, of saying, you know what, we just created, something better. So it's like, you know what, why have something else on a shelf? Why tie up working capital in your store, someone's store, because that's not good business. The way we both win is I move cases, you move product, and we win together and satisfy the need of the consumer.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, that really helps. Yeah.
So how about we go even deeper into the flavors? We worked with Rick to identify a handful of seasonings in the lineup that we're going to go a little deep in, and then we'll do a little lightning round after that. But we're going to ask kind of the same questions for each of these. So let's start with beef and more.
Yeah.
So tell us the inspiration behind.
Yeah,
beef.
was that one of your original ones, the original 4?
It was the original 4. And again, I think beef and more, again, there's many, many good products out there, fantastic products out there. Let me start there. I just always, in using most of them, to me, I said, how do I try to one-up this? How do I try to create something that doesn't change the flavor of a protein, i.e. steak, and enhance it with a little bit different twist? So when you have that, you get that salty, savory, even like that au jus flavor with some back-end heat. And to me, when you put it with the other 4 rubs, it really enhances the flavor of a steak. And to me, with beef and more, one of the toughest things, and everybody knows who develops rubs, is naming them. Yeah. Because beef and more, I can't wait to use on my competition chicken. On turkey breast is to die for. But it's boxing yourself in, right? You say beef and more right away. To Jeff's point, if he has someone walking in there, I could only use this on beef. They don't know you could use it on poultry. They don't, you could use it on turkey. But really, that's what beef and more is. And it's one of my favorite rubs.
But it sounds like you specifically developed it to go with competition steak. Was that really the genesis for that?
Not really. I think initially it was. I think as the lines will continue to develop, it's the backyard you want to cater to.
Yeah.
Like for me, so like all purpose, everybody could use that. Spicy, if you like it, everybody could use it. A grill.
Yeah, I don't mean to suggest there's really any such thing as a competition rub. Yeah. I mean, there's competition. People are an audience, a target to sell stuff to, but I've had success with rubs from the grocery store, that have big labels on them, because at the end of the day, they're all spices and seasonings, right?
Yeah.
But what would you say makes beef and more special? What makes it stand out to you?
I really think it's, without giving away everything, I think it's the kosher salt that's in there. You need kosher flake salt when you grill product. You just need, not smoke, grill. Number one. Number two is, I'll go back to the beef extract. What it ultimately does for the overall flavor of all the spices together is, to me, a little bit uniquely different. As I said, it's a lot more expensive to produce. I don't care, because disruption labels on it. And that means more to me than, 35, 40 cents a bottle. Truthfully, I'm being honest with you. I just want it to be right, and I want it to be the best product that I could potentially put forward.
And you talk about uses and kind of the naming. I think the "and more" is a smart way to suggest, other uses, obviously. And in our experience, a lot of those rubs that sort of identify as a beef rub, we find that they are really fantastic on salmon in particular, and all the other proteins that you mentioned, and all the other ways. And Brian said it earlier, all the stuff in a bottle, it's all just seasonings. You don't have to be quite so literal to what the label says, but it's smart, I think, to lean into other uses.
Well, that one says beef and more, but let's talk about what it stacks with. What do you like to mix it with, or how do you like to use it?
Sure. All right. So here's after I say this, after I confess to all this, I want you to go to Barbecue Pro Shop and buy some rub. So here's what I would say to you. All right, I'm gonna go straight up right now. I might as well do it now. Meat primer. This is the first thing I use on my steak. I use this. This is the most dynamic product that I developed. And here's what I mean by that. I use it as a dry marinade. This does not have tenderizer in it. I use this. Brisket and more. If you don't know, it's got espresso coffee. Espresso coffee enhances the flavor of beef and acts as a natural tenderizer. What's better than that? So these two go on hand in hand, right? Light layer, spicy AP rub. That's my first layer on all my steaks. Medium layer, all-purpose rub. My favorite, beef and more, medium layer. Very light with grilling dust, a very light layer. If anybody was
all that before you cook it,
yes. But Brian, which will learn, and I'm looking to have some classes at the end of the year. You know, people look at 6 products and say, Rick, there's no way. Well, it's all how you put them on them and how you use them. And that's what I'll give in my class that I'm looking at, several classes at the end of the year. But those, if you were to walk in my trailer on Friday, that's what you're going to see on my countertop right there. That's what I do.
There you have it, folks. We'll have this available, this stream available on YouTube and whatnot for folks that didn't catch Rick's recipe for all his success in SCA. So thank you. I'm shigging a little bit on this call. So let's
take the class. It's coming this fall.
Like, honestly, Ann, I mean this sincerely. My wife and I, the best feeling at the Worlds. Me and you both got called together. We were in the same group. We qualified to go to the finals. Just so the group knows. And there's got a champion right there in ribs. There's no better feeling. I mean this sincerely. At the Worlds, to have top 10 people in points chase use disruption rubs. At the World Championship, nearly half of the folks use disruption rubs. Honestly, I didn't make it to the final round or to the Texas Motor Speedway. I had a smile from ear to ear. My wife, Sue, had a smile because, in my opinion, to develop something and see other people be successful is probably single-handedly the best feeling for my wife and I. And I mean it sincerely. And I think those who know me or know my wife or those who may be on the team, like even Friday night, it isn't about Rick and Sue. It's about someone getting up there, team disruption, and them kicking some tail. For me, that's our award together. And we say, you know what? Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So that's where we're both at. It's really not about me, although I am going to try to win the world championship. I can't lie to you, Ann.
I hear that. And, you know, while Brian and I certainly don't have a rub of our own, we can maybe relate on a tiny bit of a little level. We've got lucky lighters. And so we hand those out to everyone we know. People want to buy them, but we're like, no, you can't buy luck. We have to give you them. You know, we have to give you a lighter and initiate you into the club. And it's all about just passing it on and, you know, wishing the people that we go up against all the best, and, you know, being part of that barbecue family. So, and there's nothing better than knowing that somebody used their lucky lighter on, you know, cook day and beat us, you know, with our own lucky lighter. That's good.
Well, let's jump into this one. It sounds like this is a sleeper that I need to know a whole lot more about. The whole concept of a meat primer, or, you know, even a dry marinade is a little bit different from what I've tended to do with steak. So I'd love to hear, first of all, what is it? It looks almost like powder. It's super, super fine stuff. And what is a meat primer?
Yeah, so the whole intent of meat primer was there's many good tenderizers out there. You look at Wicked Pig, Matt Overson's product, which I use, is fantastic. Flaps 20, P&L, they're all great. They're all great tenderizers. This doesn't have tenderizer in it. The unique thing about this, I don't know if you opened it or not, but it has super savory notes.
I did.
The intent is really to enhance the flavor of beef. It does have kosher salt. It does have yeast extracts. So the reason why I say this is unique, and if you don't have this in your box, you need to. I use this as a finish. There's Steve Noble. Look at that. Magical dust.
Magical dust.
So the way I use this on my steak, I put it on my steak. I let it sit for 6-8 minutes, and then I marinate my steak. Team members use this as a layer with huge success on the backside of their steak. Team members and other folks have used this in their finishing dust. It's been lights out. It's probably the single-handedly the best kept secret on the market. I won't say who, because I don't want them to feel a certain way, but I will tell you that someone got first place brisket with this, actually 2 people, KCBS and Ancillary Brisket. And the comp was down south. That's all I'll say. And thank you for the shout out. This by far is like the best kept secret. No tenderizer, enhances the flavor of beef, and it gives color too. Great color to your steak. So I love it.
So I'm sitting here tasting it right now, and my first impression is the garlic flavor is just massive. That's the first wave of what hits me. And then pops of salt and sugar kind of compete with each other in the background. But that thickness of the garlic just stays with me. And I'm reading the ingredients list, and I see it's got, what is it, cornstarch in it. What does that do for us in a bottle like this? And what's it do for my meat?
Yeah, as far as cornstarch, it could even act as a natural tenderizer. So if you think of Chinese restaurants, how they get their top round steak so tender, that's what they use.
Right. For like what's the process called? Velveting, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about that process and have used it in that way, but had just never thought to use it in a grilling application or barbecue. It sounds like this works well for both. What do you use it for beyond the grill or the smoker? Are there other things you do with this in the kitchen?
Yes. Oh my God. If you make with brisket leftovers, if you make a brisket pot pie and put this in it, it will knock your socks off your body. Let me tell you, it's really fantastic. You could use it in like soups. You could use it in stews. Brisket pot pie is one of my favorite. Anything you want to add more depth and savoriness to, you could. Add it.
Big savory. Not a whole lot of heat to it, but it's got those pops and sugar. I bet the sugars help with the caramelization, I would guess, in a grilling type application.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
I wouldn't have thought to use it as
cooking skirt steaks tomorrow. Can I put a layer of primer on it and grill? And my guests aren't going to be like, "What'd you do to this thing?"
Yeah,
in a bad way.
It doesn't have a lot of salt, Jeff, and it doesn't have any heat.
Okay.
To me, you add it on to create more in-depth flavor of the beef, and then if you put a beef rub on it, it should be pretty good. I love doing it live.
Primer beef and more and epic tomorrow. So
Jeff, it's the flavor they won't see coming.
that's what I mean. Yeah. And I mean, that's what I'm asking too, is it's like some of these things I know, like when you talk about flaps and wicked pig and all those kind of things, it's like, I don't know that I would, anyone just cooking a steak in their backyard would use those kind of things, but because obviously they're tenderizers, and I know there's a lot of, timing things with this, but this sounds like something it's something that just about anyone could use to enhance something.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, a lot of teammates they put it on their steak, they put it on the backside of their steak, and they're having success. Couldn't be more happy for them.
That's awesome.
How do you get the salt so tiny?
Yeah.
Because I mean, this stuff is powder.
Really fine.
Yeah. When you think about the kosher salt, you could use different size flake kosher salt in that, and that's really the key. So if I was using, like, if you look at Epic AP, it's kosher salt. It's a lot bigger, and that was done obviously by design. And I didn't want to call this a Texas because I'm not from Texas. I didn't want to insult anybody, but this is yes.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into Epic AP. Take it away.
Yeah, let's get into this one because we have not, to my knowledge, tested. We're in the middle of a round of flavor guide testing. Everything's blinded. We don't know what we're testing. It's all code names, but we've been playing around with this just for dinner, and we just were blown away with some boring chicken thighs that came to life in a really amazing way. And I'll probably be the first to say that, or ask, does the world really need another AP rub? I mean, there's so many. But
three more.
Or three more. And I have to say, as soon as I started, playing with this and, to your point about quality ingredients and uniqueness, I mean, you've got 2 ingredients in that. Tell us about that really set that one apart.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about porcini powder, that umami taste, I mean, it amplifies the flavor and depth, gives it that richness. It adds actually complexity with this like kind of gourmet taste. And then certainly from acho powder, I love it. Because it's mild, it's deep. So you combine that with kosher salt, a bigger mesh black pepper, and don't forget our yeast extract, the same one I use in Disruption Beef and More. That's why you have the product you have in that rub. Honestly, it's my favorite rub in the arsenal.
I was going to ask that later. If you had a favorite, it's hard to have a favorite.
I love all my children, but that's my favorite.
You didn't hesitate too much on that, so that really says something, folks. And I have, Brian and I have so many seasonings in the Barbecue Pro Shop lineup to play with. Jeff has powered our flavor factory. There's never any excuse here about what's for dinner, and there's not many seasonings that kind of make it into the kitchen cabinet to just use as like everyday ones, and, and this is one of those. You have something really special there.
Yep, for sure. That one can live by the stove here. So we started with beef and more. Let's wrap up the deep dive with brisket and more, and talk about how that's different from beef and more and what inspires that one.
Okay, so beef and more, totally different from brisket and more. Brisket and more, again, I go back to, with the brisket and more, it has espresso coffee. Espresso coffee helps tenderize, but also enhance the flavor of beef or protein.
Yeah, it's visual. Yeah, different color altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Very different grind to it, it looks like.
Definitely a different grind. Again, it has porcini for that umami, that deep. Again, creating like, how do I really get the most out of that beef flavor? Not to overpower, right? So you could use your Epic AP with that and just hit that, just to bring those deep, savory notes of the flavor of a Wagyu brisket out that are really between the porcini, the acho, the espresso, the turbinado sugar. It's a different rub. It's more like a spiced infused rub of things that are really going to enhance the flavor of beef. That's where it's uniquely different versus beef and more is a little more wild on the heat side. It's more wild with the yeast extract, a lot more saltier than the brisket and more. So,
are there things just philosophically or technically that you think are different between something that's more of a grilling rub versus a smoking rub or a barbecuing rub?
Yeah, I think so.
How do you approach those differently?
Well, for me, is you always got to be conscious of, if you're grilling, your sugar content, right? Because it could burn. It could actually add a bitterness to whatever you're cooking. For smoking and longer durations, like for me, the brisket and more is that. So you got to be mindful, even with a barbecue rub, right? I mean, you got to be mindful. Some people use barbecue rubs on the grill. If they walk into Jeff's shop, you don't want them to walk away having burnt product on chicken on the grill because you have so much turbinado or light brown sugar, whatever, dark brown sugar, whatever you may have. So keep that mindful. And again, I always go back to, Brian, is that although disruption rubs, they're always tested about a year in advance in development. They're all designed with a purpose. And once again, I'm not, my wife and I, when we have this discussion, I'm not about saying, hey, you know what, regular all-purpose wore its welcome out. This is it now. I'm open to that. I'm totally open to it because, again, I really want to be known as, maybe not the biggest person, but the person that always brings innovation. They stay with trend. And people would say, well, you swap labels. Well, I've been in this business a long time with retail. I have a lot of knowledge, which I've been very beneficial for. And if you manage things correctly, you'd be surprised how it really doesn't cost you in the long run. The most important thing is to stay relevant and have great products that you bring to people, whether it's the backyard, competition trail, or just in general. So
how do you find the scent of the trend to know where to go?
Well,
you've got to be heading in that direction before the trend gets there.
Yeah, well, you think about it. Just think about heat, right? You think about balance is always the word in barbecue, right? You want to have balanced rubs. But over the last several years, what do you know? Mango habanero, apple habanero, right? Your rubs come out with all the spicy kicks on the back end. Your finishing rubs, right? You cook your barbecue with all this balanced product, but you find more and more. What is it? Grilling dust.
Yeah, put a pop on it at the end. Yeah.
More and more MSG, I'd say. I see more and more all the time. It's moving its way up the ingredient list from second from the bottom to sometimes second from the top.
Well, it's funny you said that because I know we had preliminary discussion. What people don't understand is when you look at rubs, depending on the rub itself, MSG used right in the right way is beneficial. That's why I use the yeast extract, because you don't get the same bitterness on your tongue and everything else. But you got to understand, like we discussed earlier, the spicy one right here, this has got like low single digit MSG in it. Because guess what? When you put it with this that has a lower MSG, when you start layering flavors, all you're doing is layering MSG, layering MSG, layering MSG. I don't know about you, but me and MSG don't go hand in hand. I could taste that a mile away. I get a funny tingling taste on my tongue.
Yeah, when it's too much. Yeah,
Exactly.
when it gets to be too much, it just overloads, and then I can't taste much of anything for the rest of the day.
True,
It just blows out my tongue.
Mr. Freak, what do you say we shift gears to our lightning round?
All right, lightning round. Why don't you take the first one, Ms. Freak?
The 4 remaining flavors that we haven't gone deep into. So for this, we're going to name the flavor. Rick, we're going to ask you, give us the headline.
Okay.
And then we're going to ask you, what's your favorite way to use? So let's start with grilling dust. What's the headline for grilling dust?
Savory sweet with a kick of heat. And my favorite thing to really use it on is salmon.
All right.
Salmon. All right.
All-purpose rub. What's your headline for your all-purpose rub?
All-purpose rub is, the regular all-purpose rub is savory with a touch of sweet. And that goes on everything. Popcorn, eggs, all proteins, grilling, smoking. That goes on everything.
Good old all-purpose. And then you got one called spicy all-purpose. It
Yep.
sounds like it's not just adding some spice to your all-purpose. It sounds like you reformulated the whole idea. Tell us about it.
That's more onion, garlicky, more of a umami type flavor with a kick of heat. That one I use sparingly, as I said, with my steak. I use it light, but that one I use in finishing dust. Another hint.
All right. That's your favorite way to use it, as a finisher?
No, as a light first layer. Always a light.
Oh, okay.
First layer. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So,
All right. And then finally, let's wrap it up with the barbecue rub.
Yeah, the barbecue rub to me is kind of a savory sweet with a slight touch of smoke, but different smoke from a simmering docks and everything that's out there. And it's got a little back end heat, and that is, you use Epic AP with that on your pork butts, you use that on your ribs. It'll give you a real good product along with a top layer maybe on your brisket. So,
All
I
right.
think this was a really good question from Scott.
Yep.
We talked a lot about, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, more of this. How do you define that?
that's why I want to have a class. Come on, Scott, you're the world champion. Scott, we love you. No, like what I do is, and you're right, even when I've done videos for the team on a private Facebook page, I actually show them a light coat. I'm talking light to the fact of you could just about see it on the meat as you go around, whether it's the spinalis or the front or back side of a steak, because once you put it on it, you can't take it off, or you could scrape it off. But once you put it on, you could control your heat by putting on a light layer. A medium, that's what I said. I use basically six products of mine to do my steak. If you saw my steak when I do a class, you'd be like, oh my God. I do use all 6, but it's how I use them is the key. And how to define light, I have to show you because everybody's definition of light is different.
All right. Well, let me ask this. Do you measure out your quantities before you start putting them on there, or are you going commando right out of the shaker? And
No. I go in a dredge shaker to have better control. That's what I usually do. I don't measure it out. When I mixed before, like when I was mixing, if I was mixing rubs as I was developing them, it'd be different. But now that I have them all developed, quite honestly, I go right out of the dredge shaker. But I always use a dredge shaker because if the holes on here that could be relatively big. So,
what do you call it? A dredge shaker?
Yeah, it's a Cambro dredge shakers. They get the holes on the top. You can get fine, medium, cheese.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically what we have, Brian, with the 3 different, fine, medium, coarse.
I just didn't know what that was called.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We're using it, not knowing, not even knowing.
The more
it.
you know.
The more you know.
I do know that Ann and I have totally different preferences about what size the holes should be. But, it depends on what rub you're using. So there's a secret from us. Ann and I often aren't using the same thing. She's got her own thing going on over there.
We're not.
Well, we know a little bit about what's next for AnonymousQ. Sounds like something called Boom. But you mentioned another one earlier. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, if you can? Where you heading next?
Curiosity, because I'm always the reason why we came. And if you notice, this isn't the regular type label. So Curiosity to me is really a super big punch of savoriness. with a twist of something I can't tell you. I'll leave you curious.
Okay.
With a little bit of back end heat, but it's a different heat, say, than Boom sugar wise. So what I mean by that, when you taste it, you almost taste it and say, what the heck's in it? That's fantastic. Like, it's something you want more of, and you want to know what's in it because you're like, did I just taste that? And it's kind of piques your curiosity to say, wow. Now I have used that also in a couple of states where I happen to come in first place too. So we got 2 products coming out. I'm extremely proud of. And again, we'll see where it goes. If it crashes and burns, we'll delete them. If it does great, they'll be part of the line, which I have the utmost confidence they will do. So we're excited. Like I said, I'm just waiting on Boom out of the couple I'm ready to release for the next version to finalize, and they should all be done. And then you got to go through the process, right? 2 weeks for a nutritional fact panel, 2 weeks for labels, 2 weeks for production. So hopefully September, October, we'll have the new ones here.
Cool. And hopefully by next World Champions in March, I can try some of these on my steak and see how it goes.
And then one sleeper, Shadowbach. If you love Epic AP, this is an activated choco rub.
Oh, yeah.
You put on your rib roast, you put on your steaks and throw them right on the chocos, or you put this on lamb. This will knock your socks off.
Now you're talking.
We do throw down some lamb around here, don't we, Aaron?
We throw down some lamb. I'm Greek.
Well, Rick, it really sounds like you're just getting started in this hobby that turned into a passion, that turned into a business, that turned into your partner's post-retirement job, it sounds like.
I think for me, truthfully, first of all, I want to thank Jeff for certainly believing in a small little veteran business and carrying out products. So, Jeff, thank you. Ann and Brian, you guys are rock stars. I mean, your flavor guides are so special and unique to what you do or any barbecue shop offers. You know, it's just amazing. And I know when I talked to you, you had all my rubs figured out, which I loved. I was like, you guys rock. Certainly, Team Disruption. Sue and I love each and every one of you. And my wife, Sue, honestly, I couldn't do this without her support, and she's just second to none. And honestly, all those who supported us, we just want to say a big thank you. Who use our products, you may not be on the team, it's irrelevant. At the end of the day, we just want to put forward a product that we believe is the best product that we want to put out. You have success with, and most of all, just have fun. At the end of the day, the SCA, KCBS, it's about the relationships we make. And you know, look at Ian, I was hugging Ian at the Worlds. I didn't know I'd be talking to her on a podcast now because we both qualified. And look at it, we know each other now. It's just the way life works, right? So, but thank you, everybody.
I know it's tough to get out there and compete as busy as you are, but do you have any coming up where we might get a chance to see you soon before the next Worlds?
You know, I don't know. In Pennsylvania and the Mid-Atlantic, things are drying up other than North Carolina. Based upon schedule, looking to go to New York and support SCA up there. Next year, we're going to be a little more creative and traveling around as far as for the experience. It might be in your area. I know July 4th is a big one that Iowa puts on. It could be the Shed. I've never been to that fun place everybody calls fun, but just for the experience. So I don't know in the short term, but we'll see what's up. And if we are, we'll let you know.
All right. Well, if you can get down to Murfreesboro, Illinois, they've got MBN, they've got KCBS and SCA all going on at the same time. And it's one of the gems that the Midwest has to offer. So put it on your maybe list. It's in September.
Very good. So, Rick, where can folks find you online and follow along with your barbecue and SCA journey?
Yeah, so on AnonymousQ BBQ.com, you can follow us there, or AnonymousQ BBQ on Instagram, and then we certainly have AnonymousQ Competition Cooking Team on Facebook page.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, for everyone who tuned in tonight, thank you so much for joining us for Flavor Talk. Rick, thank you so much for being here and giving me some ideas about how I might put some of these things together for my next practice steak, get a chance to play around with them there. But we really have enjoyed them for the couple of flavor guides that we've managed to do so far. So to everyone out there listening now or through the magic of streaming later on, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Be sure and like, comment, and share, and we'll catch you next month on Flavor Talk.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rick.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, all.